Once again, take your Bibles and turn to Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 and 10. And let us not be weary in well-doing, but in due season we shall reap if we faint not. As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are the household of faith. The title this morning of the Bible school lesson is Initiative versus Unresponsiveness. Initiative versus unresponsiveness. Our text contains a very important admonition to faithfully and consistently recognize and seize every opportunity to serve others through acts of goodness and kindness. This kind of attitude is the essence of what initiative is all about. In a word that is engulfed in a me first, selfish attitude, it is refreshing to meet people who are willing and ready to help others. The point we want to make this morning is implementing initiative. Implementing initiative. If the character trait of initiative is to be implemented in our lives, we need enlightened eyes to see the needs of others. It's like Paul recognized that he wasn't just saved for himself, he was saved for the need of others. We are saved for the need of others. For the simple fact, when we're saved, then we continue to present the gospel of Jesus Christ to those who are lost. And we try to do all that we can for that soul. And that's what our interest should be in. Nothing else, just lost souls. And it's a sad thing when many of the world think churches are there at their disposal for personal items, personal issues, and they don't understand the full purpose of what a church really is. Well, that's not totally their fault, because the other so-called churches out there, or organizations, have made it that way. They have proposed that, hey, we're here to help the world, you know. And we are here to do the things that are needed to help every individual in every single certain matter. And I had a preacher call yesterday, and he talked, and he was kind of laid back, I guess. I can't remember which one he was listening to, but they were praising Dolly Parton because she has embraced homosexuals. And she has just thinks that we are to just pour out our heart to them and embrace them, and to, give them everything that they need. And the other aspect of that is that many other religions are doing the very same thing. They're embracing this. They're embracing a sin that is an abomination to God. Plain and simple. And we got to talking about and said, well, he asked the question and says, well, is everyone going to be in the bride? And I said, first of all, you can't be in the bride unless you're in a New Testament Baptist church. And I said, that's the first requisite. And if you're in a New Testament Baptist church, that means you're saved, supposedly, hopefully, and you've been baptized into the church. Those are the two requirements you have to be in the bride. Well, we know that that's not possible with many other religions because of their doctrinal issues. They're close in many ways, and they have no doubt good hearts, but who is going to be in the bride? Well, we know what our belief is. We believe what the scripture teaches, and that it's not all the elect of God. And we have to determine that with the Word of God, that is what Christ set up. Oftentimes we are so caught up in our own little world that we fail to see the opportunities of service that are all around us. Now there is opportunity. Brother Ray and Brother Lonnie are going out passing out pamphlets. We see that there's an opportunity here to do that. And that's why we're here. Once again, we want to go out, be able to bring those folks in that we may minister to them, and hopefully that they will come to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, join the church, and through the waters of baptism, and then serve him in his church. That is the order of things. And I'm really afraid that many are not doing that today. Many of our own churches are not doing that today. The time of, Brother Ray, I was showing him on sermon audio that you could get on there and there's 4 sermons on there, Brother Harvey. And I don't know how many on there, Garner Smith and Brother Cockrell and Dole Thomas, including all the sermons that are here on Sunday morning. I don't put everything in that we do up here, just the morning, the sermon itself. That's all I put on there. But we're reaching out, and there have been some comment that that's how they know we're here. It's through those, between that and the YouTube, they'll look around and they'll see. And it's not going to be popular. We understand that. But the initiative is there, and we need to implement it in every aspect of our lives. Within the home, every member of the family should work toward the common good and happiness of all by serving one another. It's really imperative that that's done. Think how peaceful and harmonious our homes would be if every family member was looking for opportunities to help one another. The principle may be also be applied in our churches, workplaces, and our society at large. You know, we want to be a help, but the world has the wrong idea about what kind of help we're to give them. We're not to feed them. I mean, you know, that's not a purpose of us being here. It's not to feed every single person that comes through the door. But in a sense, it is to feed them the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's what we're after. That's what we want to do. Their soul is more important than their physical being anyway. And as I was listening before Brother Ray came in, I was listening to Brother Harvey, and he said the clothes that the sheep wear. And he just got to the point, it's important that we wear clothes for obvious reasons, right? But he says it's more important that we have spiritual clothing. So that's what we're interested in. You know, we're not here to clothe the world. We're here to clothe the world spiritually, in that we have the gospel of Jesus Christ. So we also need enlightened eyes to see the plight of lost sinners and respond by preaching the gospel to them. Turn over to John chapter 6, if you would, in verse 35. John chapter 6 and verse 35. And Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. So here's a hunger that's going to be taken care of. a thirst that it's going to be taken care of. And these are not physical, they're spiritual. So there is a need that everyone gets an enlightened eye about who Jesus is. Now, I know when Brother Ray and Brother Lonnie were out this past Thursday, they ran into certain ones that, some showed some interest, and other ones didn't show any interest, and some wanted to maybe argue a little bit. And as you progress in doing that, then there's certain questions that you can ask these people, because they're going to come up with off-the-wall stuff. And they're going to make it sound like they know all about religion. Because a lot of times they don't want to hear what you have to say, but they're going to input what they believe. And I always try to make a point and say, but what did Jesus say? What did Jesus say about that certain specific thing? What did he say? A lot of times you can stop them right there. Sometimes they'll try to answer the question, and then the next question to them would be, I need to see that. Can you show me that? Or that says that? Or that is that? Because there's a misconception of what Jesus said, And it's like, it's been a long time, 80s, maybe 80s, 90s. I can't remember when, maybe the 90s. They come out with these bracelets that says, what would Jesus do? Well, Jesus would do, but not what you think he would do, see. That's the whole thing. They want to put that out there, what would Jesus do? But they don't want to accept what Jesus would really do. And so it's in fact, it's not what Jesus would do. Jesus isn't going to go around with a bracelet on his hand with the initials, what would Jesus do? He's just not going to do it. So right off the bat, we're not in the same league as Jesus. So we have to be very careful. If initiative is to be implemented in our lives, we must cultivate, again, this is cultivating Christian character, we must cultivate an attitude of humility and willingness to serve. And it has to be a service without complaint. It's just like Brother Paul, if you read his mission letter, he says a lot of people are complaining today, and I'm one of them, and so on and so forth. And, not to rehash it, but I told him, I says it's no surprise, because Israel complained their entire existence. Part of the message this morning will include part of that their complaint. They complained and complained and complained. And we all complain. I mean, that's just kind of in our nature. We complain about this, we complain about that. And Brother Leonard used to say, we need to do better. When it comes to things like that, we need to do better. As we see what needs to be done all around us, we can see the needs. We must not consider any job as beneath us. There's nothing beneath you to do. There's anything, it doesn't matter what it is. So we need to consider that there's no job beneath us, but rather be willing to serve in any capacity that may be beneficial to others. Now, some would say, well, I'm not cleaning no toilet. Well, then you're saying that cleaning a toilet is beneath you, that you're better than that. And in reality, you're not. Go to 2 Corinthians chapter 8. 2 Corinthians chapter 8. and verse 5. And this they did, not as we hoped, but first gave their own selves to the Lord and unto us by the will of God. So we see this, that Paul is talking about, and what he's dealing with here to the Corinthian church is how the Macedonians were an example of giving. And that we were trying to let them understand and see we're supposed to do the same thing. It's just not isolated to a certain group or a certain person. It's to all of us. Then turn over to Nehemiah, which I'm sure that many of you have read and understand this, what Nehemiah was doing here. Nehemiah chapter 4 and verse 6. It says here, so built we the wall, and all the wall was joined together unto the half thereof, for the people had a mind to work. Now, when Brother Ray was doing a mission work up in Mansfield, he brought this out. That the people, in order to do something, the people have to have a mind to work. If you're just going to be here, you're just going to sit down in the pew and twiddle your thumbs and say, oh, I've had a good day, and go home and be the same person you were, hours ago, then nothing's going to get done. But Nehemiah has an understanding here that these folks here was going to rebuild the wall. But they had a mind to do it. They had a mind to work. There was no job beneath them. Didn't matter what it was. So that's the kind of attitude that the church needs to have. Look over here at verse 14. And I looked, and rose up and said unto the nobles, and you can read the whole chapter here. Most of us should understand what's going on here. And to the rulers and to the rest of the people, be not ye afraid of them. Remember the Lord, which is great and terrible. The word there should be awesome. There's nothing terrible about God, but that's what the word does mean. Terrible means awesome. And fight for your brethren, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your houses. You don't fight, you're not going to get anything. We're going back to the polls next month, or November. I missed a month. In November, we're going back to the polls. So guess what's on the ballot? Issue 1. It's right back on there again. And they got it turned back around from the first one. Now, if you want, to believe that a woman has a choice, and it doesn't matter what, I don't even know what the word is, time of her pregnancy is, that she can abort that baby at any time, that's her right to do, then vote yes. And that's what they're trying to put. But see, the first time we did it, voting yes was for our side, was for what we should have done against abortion. Now they got it turned around. Now we need to vote no on that issue. Because then what we're doing, if you watch the commercials on TV and you can see what they're doing, they want the women to have the right to abort their baby. And we can preach it until the cows come home. We can preach it till we're blue in the face. Abortion is murder, plain and simple. And people are stupid because they don't understand. Well, that baby's my body. No, it's not. If you get in there and you can do it, the doctor can do this if they want. They can go in there and they can grab that baby's DNA, and it's not going to be the same as the mother, so it's not the same as the mother. It's murder. And you can cut it any way you want to. Abortion is murder. So we need to fight. That's the only way we're going to be able to win or come out ahead is fight. And we may be fighting a losing battle, but God's going to win in the end. And we're going to be right there with him. We're going to be there with him. So we have to fight. And we should be concerned about what's coming up. And I know the name is just being thrown around right now, but there should never be a woman, first of all, in politics, period. But we have no choice anymore in the matter because that's the only way we can survive. But who they want, Joe ain't going to run, but I can pretty much tell you who is going to run. And she might just win. But if she does, then that's an embarrassment to our country. That's an embarrassment to democracy. But people will just love it. And we know what's next. We know what happens. And all we can say is, at least I can say this, and most all of us in this building can say this, I'm glad I'm as old as I am. Because it'd be very difficult if I was a lot younger. But in verse 14, we see, let's go to verse 15. I just read verse 14. And it came to pass when our enemies heard that it was known unto us, and God had brought their counsel to naught, that we returned all of us to the wall, every one unto his work. So all of them had a work to do, and they did it. And it came to pass from the time forth that the half of my servants wrought in the work, and the other half of them held both the spears, the shields, and the bows, and the harmagons, which is the armor, and the rulers were behind all the house of Judah. So everyone had a job to do. They had their builders, and then they had the protectors. Okay? They were always protected. Somebody always had their back. They which builded on the wall, and they that bear burdens, with those that laden, every one with one of his hands wrought in the work, and the other hand held a weapon. So literally was building the wall, a brick in one hand, and a sword in the other, or their weapon in the other hand. For the builders, every one had his sword girded by his side, and so builded. And he that sounded the trumpet was by me, by Nehemiah. And I said unto the nobles and the rulers and to the rest of the people, the work is great and large, and we are separated upon the wall, one far from another. In what place, therefore, ye hear the sound of the trumpet, resort ye thither unto us. Our God shall fight for us. So we labored in the work, and half of them held the spears from the rising of the morning till the stars appeared. Likewise, at the same time said I unto the people, let every one with his servant lodge within Jerusalem, that in the night they may be a guard to us and labor on the day. So neither I, nor my brother, nor my servants, nor the men of the guard which followed me, none of us put off our clothes, saving that every one put them off for washing. So they slept in their clothes, is what he's saying there. They had their clothes on all the time. They were ready, they were prepared all the time. The only time they took them off was to wash them. But they would have somebody there to protect even that. They had a mind to work. They had a mind to do what was necessary to get that wall built back against all the odds that were against them. And we too have an obligation to get back what we lost. And you know what that is. In order to implement initiative, a measure of self-denial is necessary. Rather than always trying to fulfill our own needs, we must deny ourselves to serve others. Whether others are doing it or not is not the issue. The issue is that you do it. Jesus Christ is the greatest example of one who was willing to sacrifice himself in order to minister to the needs of others. Turn over to Matthew chapter 20. Matthew chapter 20. And verse 28. Even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life a ransom for many. Then Romans chapter, hold your place there at Matthew, but Romans chapter 15 and verse 3. Romans 15:3. For even Christ pleased not himself, but as it is written, the reproaches of them that reproached thee fell on me. As the disciples are called upon to deny ourselves in order to serve God and others. Look at Matthew, once again, Matthew 16. Hold your place there in Romans. Matthew 16 and verse 24. Matthew 16 and verse 24. Then said Jesus unto the disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? Then going back to Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12 and verse 1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. This service is reasonable. God's not asking you to do anything out of the ordinary. He's not asking you to do anything that you can't do. All he's doing is asking you to do it, and this is your reasonable service. It's just something that we need to do. So implementing initiative requires the ability to get things done without having to be told over and over again to do them. And when that happens, then of course we know that's procrastination. We just put it off and put it off and put it off, no matter how many times we're told to do it. When initiative is operating in our lives, we will serve and lend a helping hand without being asked or told. We just do it. And I've used this illustration time and time again. You walk back through there, you go out into the fellowship hall or out into the foyer, and you see something out of place, fix it. You don't have to tell nobody. God's always watching. Many times in our homes we do the same thing. See something out of place, we see something that the other our spouse didn't do or did do. We just do it, or should just do it. Just do it, fix it. We don't have to, broadcast it and say, well, this wasn't done or that wasn't done. Just do it. You see it's out of place. And if you just do it without saying anything about it, then the reward is much greater. Same way here. Pick up a piece of paper. You're going to pick that piece of paper up and go on through there to everybody say, hey, I just picked this piece of paper up. I'm going to throw it in the trash right now. What's the purpose? See? You surely didn't do it to be able to have the ability that requires us to do it with the initiative that Christ did. How refreshing it is when people recognize a need and cheerfully set out to meet it because they are compelled from within by a heart that is dedicated to service. And that's all it's about, is that our heart is dedicated to service, no matter what it is, where it's at, or how it is. And it is in our nature. You know, if I throw this piece of paper on the floor, you know, and we all walk by it and walk away, somebody will go there and they'll pick it up. Now, why didn't they pick this up? Well, don't worry about it. Just pick it up and throw it away. What's the use of making a big deal about it? So, it's the whole idea of taking the initiative, and as Brother Paul says, without complaint. You know, there's the more we complain, the more hardship we're going to give, the more arguments we're going to run into. You're dismissed. The doodad, yeah. Put that doodad down.
Hey,
Thank you.
I went to go to meet her that before.
Do what? What, doodad?
Still go fishing at Shane's?
I've been out there once, out there, maybe twice.
See on there.
I caught, I caught 12 inch it's bad, they're open back. And the person went in, and, threw it back.
I think he'd have a bike here for him.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And I saw 30-pound carp swimming up in the deep end.
And I believe that.
Yeah, that's a get away from them things.
It's fun to watch, you know.
Yeah, they're fun to watch.
It's fun to catch one, you get it up, they're all do it.
Yeah, now the break your line and pull and everything.
They do fight.
And they,
How big a ponds he got?
actually, it's just a stream that goes down through there that is dumped out of a fish hatchery.
They just got a wide area and it's.
Yeah, some areas are like 20 feet apart across. It gets clear water, man. It usually runs pretty good.
There's a fish hatchery here.
Well, up there, up north of